JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Tuesday, July 29th, 8:59 a.m. Talk really quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from their S&P futures slightly in the green here. About up 0.2% after yesterday's small gain. A last 30-minute surge put the S&P in the green for the sixth session in a row. And now, welcome to the fun, right? I mean, a little sarcasm here, but yesterday, after the open between 9:30 and about 11 a.m., the swings or the trading range on the S&P was about 0.1%. So pretty remarkable stuff. That I would assume is likely going to change. We have Fed meeting tomorrow. Well, Fed meeting starts today, and then we get the Fed statement at 2 o'clock tomorrow. Fed press conference at 2:30. We have second quarter GDP data out. Then PCE data Thursday. Jobs report Friday, and then slapped all in between like a nice salami sandwich. Well, Italian sandwich with salami and ham. A little early for that. Then we have um, earnings, right? So after the close today is not much. You got Visa, some other names. Tomorrow's the big name was we have Meta, Microsoft, and Thursday Amazon, Apple. Certainly gonna be big. This morning, a nice little piece. I don't know if it was the Wall Street Journal on Apple. Gosh, I remember talking about Apple back in the day when it was like 2015 or whatever, when the iPhone was still kind of new, right? I mean, they were still single digits, right? I mean, it was iPhone 6 or who knows. And the App Store was relatively new. And that, was like, okay, you got to convert those folks who are on your ecosystem and monetize them using software or what have you. And then there came the App Store and uh, iCloud and all those other initiatives outside the phone, right? That's how you survive. Unlike if you remember BlackBerry, and BlackBerry's still around, right? BlackBerry was the number one phone company back in the day, and they never innovated, whatever. But nice little story there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Apple earnings. Uh, and I think it's more of obviously gonna be tariff related, but interesting article. It almost sounded like a bearish piece, like one of those funds coming out with their hit piece on Apple, right? It was a lot of negativity. Um, so maybe that's it for Apple. I don't know, we'll see. All right. So just quick, if you take a look at some of these moves, great slide here from Market Watch. I think I posted in the chat room earlier today, but shows the swings on some of these days where we have data, and I guess the JOLTS report, did that already come out? I think that comes out 10 o'clock today. The JOLTS report, funny, it's not a data point that was heavily watched for a long time. Now all of a sudden it's moved markets last year when you have folks all fixated on some kind of economic data that's going to show signs of tariffs. Maybe this is the one, but that'll be out today. Tomorrow it's like an 0.8% move implied on the S&P, which relative to other Fed days, it's actually not too wide a swing. And last Fed day was like you couldn't even see that the statement came out. The market barely budged, but maybe it's different this time. I'm sure the press conference is going to be a lot more interesting. Maybe have some more swings if Fed Chair Powell kind of spins things a little more dovish. And yeah, don't forget at the end of August is Jackson Hole, and that'll probably set the stage for a back to rate cut cycle. All right, so that's kind of some things going on. Also, another thing, and I always post bullish stuff, but I put it on the watch list this morning. It seems like right now where all you read the article, even this morning, peak greed, you know, peak fundamentals, peak PE ratios, peak stock prices, right? So is like this the top, interesting historical here, and there's not too much data points, right? But the first year post election on the second term, August is not a good performing month. So you look at the averages, -3% and every single time. And the last data point we have is Obama in 2013. That was down 3%. And then you go to all these other two-term presidents. The second term, 1st August, not so good. So is it seven times the charm? Seven is actually one of my favorite lucky numbers. All right. That's that. Overall market, take a look at the SPY, another tight trading range, 540 to 526. That's kind of what I'm watching. 530, excuse me, 6. 6. 633 is a kind of big spot. I'll add some put hedges. It doesn't make sense to fight the trend, right? You read all these negative spins, and it's like they were same negative spins, even more negative spins, much lower. At some point, we'll have some kind of pull, right? So it's always good to have a plan because when the pull happens, it's probably gonna be quick. So if we do get an intraday pull, I'll be watching Broadcom, AVGO puts, Now puts, maybe some AMD puts, SQQ calls. And again, I always say this, and I preface this. It's not that I don't believe in those stories. Most times and every time I've said this on these names, I've gotten puts on them and make money on the puts. I always say the stocks are probably going to be higher 6 to 12 months. And sure enough, they're substantially higher than where I got the puts. Doesn't mean I don't believe in the story. Just some of these names that have been on monster runs, people are just going to take profits in the winners, right? So, all right, so that's kind of overall market. Also, take a look at the small caps. Took a breather yesterday, just still waiting for it to take the reins. And then last but not least, take a look at how about that U.S. dollar monster run yesterday. I don't know if that's some on the heels of the EU US deal. Folks are spinning it. Oh my gosh, they really took it to the EU. What a crazy, horrible deal for the EU. I mean, they were spinning it. China really got it over on the U.S. on their trade deal. I mean, who knows how to spin it to me? To me, I hope it just continues to open the global economy, and it's good for all markets, takes the uncertainty away, and so on and so forth. Creates jobs, creates wealth, creates a great world, right, for everybody. All right. So now just quick on individual names. Uh, Obviously, the three names I'm trading, especially for earnings. DXCM reports tomorrow after the close. My strikes are getting close to a double, so we'll see if it gets over $90. It was actually 90 in the pre-market about 7 a.m. I don't know. Right now, the bid's 89, the ask 89, 87. Hopefully, you can get over that 90 handle. 91.74, I think, is the February high. So I think it gets over that. It's blue skies. Huge gap fill all the way up to 110. I mean, it's not going to fill the gap by tomorrow morning or before the close tomorrow. But the plan is to lock some or all in, depending if I can get some out to cover costs. If I can, then I'll lock some in to cover costs, ride the rest into earnings. The other thing is that my calls are short dated, so I was looking at the August 15s. They're not much more expensive to pay for 2 more weeks out. So the other possibility is I might lock the weeklies in, get to August 15s, depending if I can get them out for double. I might close them all out and just nibble a few of the August 15s. That might be the better way for me to play it because I mean, time and time again, you've seen this option expiration. The Friday, the stock sells off or it's flat for the week, and then there'll be an upgrade Monday and Tuesday, and I'm like, come on, man. So that's kind of the thought process there. So that's DXCM. And then during the day yesterday, so first was TTD. I've been looking at TTD, ROKU, Align, MDB, RH, some of the names for earnings, premium builds into the reports. Same premise as Dexcom, trying to get some out to cover costs, ride the rest in earnings. So deciding between Roku and TTD, and then TTD looked interesting more on a risk reward basis on the weeklies. 91.70, similar to Dexcom, is the this is a 200 day moving average, 91.27. I think if it gets over that, it heads over 95 this week. 95s look very inexpensive on a risk reward basis. We ain't got those strikes. And then later in the day, Roku, which was green at the open and then faded at 11:30, and then boom, found a bid, was right near highs of the days in the afternoon. I'm like, this is going to have continuation. So I went and got some of those strikes. What I should have done with Dexcom, I did with Roku. I went and got the later dated strikes. Plan similar to Dexcom. I'm going to try and lock some in before Thursday close when they report earnings. I put it on the watch list this morning. I always look at Roku through the goggles or my glass, or whatever you want to call them, of a 125, 130 plus stock. Like that's how I look at Roku. I say, well, how is it in the 90s or 80s or 70s? I think it should be deserve a substantial higher valuation. Obviously, the market hasn't agreed. Maybe this is the earnings that sends it. I don't know. Maybe it's next earnings. Maybe it's next year. Maybe it never happens. But being right on a name that is that finally starts to get to that valuation, it was going to pay a lot, right? So if it does get to 125 post earnings, call's going to pay a lot. But at the same token, been there before, so I don't want to be in a spot where I'm holding a position that goes completely bidless. So that's the plan. And then quick on some other names. I keep mentioning Align Technologies only because over the years and every Wednesday, typically reports on a Wednesday, you watch the calls and even out of money strikes. The stock trade closed 20 what it closed at 206 yesterday, 207.16. It'll be 210, and the 265 weekly strikes will be no bid at the open, and they'll be like 60 cents at the close. So only because I don't know if people are buying weird strikes, causing the market makers to play some games or what have you, but it happens all the time, and I'm going to try and point it out. Maybe I'll get an audio while it's happening tomorrow, but I might try and nibble some. And again, I would love to be able to nibble some and play some into earnings. If not, I just might play for some profits. But that's another name I'm watching. And then, disappointing names, CDLX, Edit. CDLX still, I locked some of the August in. They report earnings next week, so I'll just continue to hold those. And I still have the later data strikes. Same with Edit. Plenty of time on the January strikes. I think once Edit gets a bid, I might look to get some more strikes. So news this morning, United Healthcare. I was talking about United Healthcare yesterday on the rant yesterday afternoon. I'm like, you look at the chart and like, wow, this thing should bounce. And then sure enough, somewhat disappointing earnings. Like the stigma is still, it's like a whole weight on the stock. And I who knows when that gets removed. And then same with Spotify here. And I don't know if Spotify is going to bounce. Typically, I would try and trade Spotify for a bounce. I guess they missed On the earnings side, higher cost, a loss. That was the big story on Spotify, that they were never going to be profitable. Then they did, and now it's kind of like a reverse. But that was when it was $200. Here it is. It was $700 to close. Uh, Still a great story. So at some point, maybe I'll revisit Spotify. Visa after the close. I'm trying to think of some of the other names this week. Um, Joby and Served. I mean, Serve is still chopping around. TikTok, TikTok, TikTok. At some point, it's going to explode the upside, at least in my humble opinion. And then Joby, it'd be interesting to see. One of these times, you would think that, hey, if the sellers come in, they can try and take control, and they haven't. So here's another test. Close down 5%, but still at $17. All things considered, where it was only a couple months ago. Impressive. And if it has more strength here, it gets back to all-time highs this week, I might look to get some more calls. Anyway, let's have a great day, folks. I'll be back. Rock and roll.